The Book 5 Midpoint Banner features Luthier, Palla, and Zeke from Shadows of Valentia, plus we also have Mythic Nott from Book 5, bringing over their stats, skills, and talk about some build ideas. Before we begin, you should be aware that there are some special Book 5 Midpoint events going on. This includes daily rotating banners, and you can check the notification board to see who exactly will be showing up. Be sure to use your free summon at the very least. Personally, I'm eyeing that banner with Midori and Julian since I do want to get my hands on some close foil. Another thing you can get is 2 5-star copies of Tatiana by completing some quest. She's a new unit who will demote into through the 4-star pool beginning with this month's legendary banner. I will talk about her a bit at the very end. Back to the banner itself, our 4-star focus unit is going to be Luthier, Delthia's brother. You can get him at 4-star and 5-star rarity, plus he will demote to the 3-4-star pool after this banner has ended. As a unit, Luthier will be a green infantry mage with 43 HP, 37 attack, 36 speed, 20 defense, and 30 resistance. As some have pointed out, Luthier is our first green infantry mage demotee in over 4 years. His offensive stats are quite impressive, and we finally have a competitor for Nino. Luthier, however, will be much bulkier thanks to good old stat power creep. He will be a decent budget offensive mage, and you can work with his somewhat low defense but decent res stats. For old skills, Luthier has some amazing offerings. He has Glimmer as a special, and finally brings Swiss Sparrow 2 into the low rarity pool. We've had it on some heroic grail options, but now it's summonable if you're lucky. Luthier will also have Guard 3, and that's going to be his 4-star skill. For his inheritable weapon, Luthier has the Green Fox Tome. This 12 Might Tome inflicts -4 to all stats on the foe when initiating combat. This is a pure player phase tome and completes the 3 Fox Tome colors for mages. We do not have a lot of offensive inheritable tomes for green mages, so Grand Fox is nice for Luthier himself and faster mages like Nino. The attack debuffs can be good for some extra survivability, but mainly it's about dealing more damage and getting that speed advantage. In terms of playstyles and builds, Luthier sets him out quite nicely if you're on a budget. Grand Fox and Swiss Sparrow essentially give +8 attack and speed, so you can just continue stacking more. I would probably go with the speed refine for the Fox Tome. Guard probably is only going to work until Luthier gets hit, but it can prevent any special charging counter attacks. Glimmer is also fine to keep, although you can swap to Moonbow, Luna, or Iceberg. For C skills, Luthier can use something like Attack or Speed Smoke to give himself a safer enemy phase after initiating, but a Rouse or Oath self buff would be great choices too. Besides Swiss Sparrow, Fury isn't bad with the Fox Tome for more upfront survivability, although Luthier is not too squishy. Desperation is an obvious choice for continuous fighting, and we have that new Blade Session seal, although Brazen Tag and Speed works just fine. If you want to ensure Luthier lives through his initiations, you can go more defensive with the Fox Tome. Things like Sturdy Impact, low attack skills, and the new mana skills can all give Luthier a much better chance of surviving. Obviously, he is losing out on some speed from more doubles though. Now, if you did want to try a sturdier build, since Luthier just has more stats to work with than the other low rarity green mages, then if you do have it, the Amity Blooms Plus from Valentine's Alphonse is a solid weapon. Overall, Luthier is pretty much an updated version of Nino. Absolutely should be fine if you're looking for a budget offensive mage, and could definitely be a fun merge project. Next up is Palla, this time her version from Shadows of Valentia. Well, we already got the SOV Catria, so I'm already going to make a wild guess that we'll probably see the SOV Est next time. Palla will once again be a sword flyer, but with vastly different stats. She has 41 HP, 42 attack, 21 speed, 41 defense, and 28 resistance. Palla blows every sword flyer out of the water in terms of attack. Actually, she has the highest base attack out of any sword unit in the game, and she has a super boon on top. Palla also ties for highest base defense out of all sword units. This does come at the cost of extremely low speed, but her HP and res are just fine. As Palla is rocking the Altina stat line, and boy can she use it well. For old skills, Palla is going to come with Rally Attack and Defense Plus for team buffing. She also has Attack and Res Rain, which is a little sus on a physical damage dealer. It's not terrible though, because Palla has the Lady Blade. This isn't an 11 might sword, but it comes with Kanto 2, inflicts -5 speed, lets Palla attack twice every action, and calculates damage using the lower of the foe's defense or res. In other words, Lady Blade is a dual phase brave weapon with adaptive damage and Kanto. Good lord. And this is absolutely scary considering Palla has incredible base attack, and you can't even hide behind high defense unless your res stat is also up there. Additionally, Palla can dive in, 2-tap an enemy, then she can retreat backwards thanks to Kanto. It's like the old school brave weapon plus hit and run combo, except all in one weapon. That is incredibly good for player phase tactics, and Palla can utilize flyer mobility skills to ferry teammates after she makes an attack. These brave weapons are just getting crazier and crazier. Palla's inheritable skill is Red Dual Flying 4, grants plus 5 HP and plus 2 to all other stats. Dual skills boost arena scoring, and this one is for your red flying units. We have a good amount of red flying dashes out there. There's a Versa with her debuffs. We also had a pretty super find for Legendary Ryoma. In terms of playstyle, Shadows of Valentia, Palla is scary. Very high base attack, flyer mobility, brave weapon with adaptive damage, and Kanto makes for a super strong player phase initiator. As mentioned, she can initiate, hopefully 2-shot her target, then dip out. If you just want to focus on the player phase, you can go for double death blow skills for max attack, but since Lady Blade works on both phases, perhaps something like the new catch skills would work better. Palla can easily take one hit, and then she fires back with 2 adaptive damage swings. If you engage on her, you better not have super low defense or low res. Attack and res range is fine because typically high defense foes will be an issue for Palla, but she can just target the res stat anyway, which means the res debuff will be useful. If you really want the most damage, you could use the Near Trees B skills, but it's kind of a waste since Lady Blade already has Kanto built in. Instead, Palla could run things like Wings of Mercy or Guard Bearing to be even tankier. Like Altina, the good old distant counter plus Vantage build is just kind of mean, and it's worse with adaptive damage now in play. For other skills, Palla could run the Tempest skills for 3 movement. She could actually use the Menace C skills, but I think Rains are perfectly fine for flyers. Like the other Kanto flyers, I think flyer mobility skills are really strong on them. Palla can use guidance or flower guidance to ferry her teammates around. All in all, I think this Palla is great. You cannot just throw a high defense unit at her, and even if you have good defense and res, she has tons of attack to back up her 2 hits. If she lives, then Kanto procs, and well, even more mobility for flyers is powerful. Very cool unit. Third, we have Zeke, who is definitely not related to any other Lance Cavaliers in the game. Zeke is going to be a Lance Cav at 40 HP, 40 attack, 15 speed, 38 defense, and 35 res. He does have a defense super boon, but we all know everyone wants that speed super boon instead. For real though, Zeke basically took a look at Duso and decided he wanted in on that action. 15 speed is garbage, but 38 defense and 35 res is basically godly for a Cavalier, and he has 40 attack as well. For old skill, Zeke has Bonfire to no surprise, and he's going to have attack and defense catch 4, which makes its first reappearance. Zeke also has low attack and defense, which will further his bulkiness and damage. Zeke is going to have the Holy Grativis, which retains its distant counter status. Instead of stat boost or special cooldown charge, this time it grants a follow-up attack if Zeke has more than 25% HP. DC plus a follow-up is honestly extremely effective for so many situations. Zeke will not need quick repose, and he can keep player phase offensive pressure thanks to his good base attack. He has the defense and res to take hits, and if the enemy doesn't kill him first, he has good counterattack damage potential. Amazing weapon for his min-max stat spread. For his inheritable skill, Zeke comes with defense and res menace. At the start of the turn, if the unit is within 4 spaces of a foe, inflict -6 defense and res on the closest foes, and you grant +6 defense and res to the unit. First off, the +6 defense and res buff is great for units who just want to fight anyone. Zeke is a good example with his good defense and res stats and DC. As for the defense and res debuffs, obviously most units only care about debuffing one damage type. However, these are debuffs that can benefit the whole team. For more niche cases, there's units like Myrrh who actually benefit from having more defense than the foe but still deals magic damage. Then we have adaptive damage users like Palla who actually are fine with both stats being debuffed. This is a good menace skill for units that want defense and res buffs and you want to deal more damage. If you've seen Duso, Zeke basically trades pure stats for distant counter utility. He does have pretty good damage output from his base kit thanks to attack and defense catch and the defense debuffs from the low attack and defense and res menace skills. If you get hit by the menace skill, Zeke sets up his defense and res, and low attack is going to stop your field bust, so he's also going to be pretty tanky. Duso can become insanely hard to take down, but he does need to be solo for his Obsidian Lance to activate. Meanwhile, Zeke just needs to be healthy to get his follow-up attack, which means he is probably the better DC user. He can use a tier 3 dual stance if you want to get guard, and he can stand right next to his teammates to benefit from combat buffs. I would say Zeke's base kit is perfectly fine to keep. You can just swap some things out if you want. You could run the Near Trace B skills if you want to get Kanto, and you can use Desperation for instant 2-taps since Holy Gratifice does supply the follow-up attack. Just be aware of where Zeke's health is at since he prefers staying healthy. You could literally copy Duso's kit of Defense and Res Solo 4 and Rouse Defense and Res, but Attack and Defense Catch and the Menace skills are great. For Sacred Seal, Zeke is going to be able to run Bond since he can run DC next to his allies. Attack Smoke is great for even tankier, and Heavy Blade is an option if you want to run higher cooldown specials like a third Gale Force. Unlike another certain Lance Cavalier we'll be talking about soon, Zeke and Duso solve some of the issues with these slower Cavaliers. They end up min-maxing their low base stat totals, and they have guaranteed follow-up attacks, and this is going to free up some space for the the build options. As an avid Do-So enjoyer since his release, I can't imagine Zeke won't be just as fun to use. Last spot for this banner is for Mythic Nott. She will appear again on this month's Legendary banner, however, you can spark Nott right here. As a Dark Mythic hero who boosts defense and opens the 7th defense team slot, I imagine some 8th raid players will definitely spark for her. As a unit, Nott is a Lance Infantry unit with 40 HP, 41 attack, 40 speed, 20 defense, and 27 resistance. The Lance Infantry group has added a good amount of speedy Lancers in recent times, but Nott's got some competitive stats and she comes with a balanced defense and res spread. It's not super high, but Nott also has ways to boost her defensive capabilities. For old skills, Nott's going to come with Dragon Fang as her special. She also has Distant Counter, which makes her prime fodder. For her weapon, Hrem Foxy, I don't believe it has changed from the story. It's a 16-weight lance that grants a flat +3 speed. At the start of combat, if Nott has more than 25% HP, she gains +5 to all stats and a bonus to attack, speed, defense, and res equal to the current bonus on each of Nott's stats for 1 turn. Each stat is calculated individually. Additionally, Hrem Foxy comes with Pathfinder, which enables allies to move through the space Nott occupies for free. This is the same as Dagger. So Hrem Foxy is a super simple weapon. It grants +5 to all stats and has bonus doubler plus Pathfinder. Nott can become a huge ball of stats if she gets field buffs, and Pathfinder on a defense mythic hero is not going to be fun to deal with. Pathfinder also stacks, so you can have multiple Notts on the team and allies can move through both of them for free. It's pretty disgusting and you have to be prepared for Nott extending the movement of her allies. For her unique B skill, Nott comes with Moon Twin Wing. At the start of combat, if she has more than 25% HP, inflict -5 attack and speed on the foe during combat, and Nott gains the usual 40% damage reduction dodge effect. Actually, another simple skill, if Nott is healthy, she gets dodge and inflicts attack and speed deals, which perfectly synergizes to make dodge more effective. It's simple, but with how much stats Nott is stacking already, she can become quite a problem. For Inheritable C skill, Nott's going to come with attack and speed menace. Just like the other menace skills, this one inflicts -6 attack and speed debuffs on the closest foes within 4 spaces, and the user gets a +6 attack and speed field buff. This is the first menace skill with speed involved, and it's real nasty. It creates a 12 speed advantage for the user, assuming you attack the debuff foe, and 12 speed is a lot. This is a great menace skill for dodge users like Nott, because not only do you ensure you get the speed advantage in your favor, but the attack debuffs reduce damage even more. This menace skill actually affects a lot of things. You gain a huge speed advantage, the attack debuff boosts both your defense and res tanking, and the attack buff gives you more damage. All in all, Nott is a huge ball of stats, and she has distant counter and dodge. She should be very good for all kinds of situations, although Nott doesn't have some of the stronger abilities like follow-up attacks, guard, or faster specials. If you can buff her with field buffs, Hrem Foxy's gonna double them, and attack and speed menace does give Nott buffs to play with. She also gains a ridiculous amount of stats if you account for debuffs. Hrem Foxy gives +5 to all stats, Moon Twin Wing inflicts -5 attack and speed, and attack and speed menace inflicts another -6 attack and speed. I mean, that's already -11 attack and speed and debuffs, and Nott has dodge, so she's gonna be way tankier than she actually looks. I would just add a Sacred Seal like Mystic Boost for healing or Flashing Blade to get more special procs. Of course, you can go crazy with things like attack and speed skills like Kestrel Stance or attack and speed solo. Ideally, Nott wants field buffs on her, so you could use other self-buffing things like Oaths and Rouse buffs. Otherwise, bring some defense and res buffers for your team. If you don't care for DC, Nott could just take a stat boosting A skill. In general, Nott is going to be a pain to deal with, especially if you don't have stopper buffs and if you can't out damage her dodge effect. That said, it may be Pathfinder that becomes the biggest pain since it enables Nott's teammates to move around more freely. It's a crazy good team mobility tool and can lead to overlapping attack ranges very easily. I would say Pathfinder and the Dark Mythic bonuses give Nott a ton of value, and I'm sure you'll see her around in 8th raids. As promised, let's now take a look at Tatiana. She may have mainly been a healer and SOV, at least for me, but Tatiana is taking matters into her own hands this time by building a blue infantry mage. She has 40 HP, 37 attack, 34 speed, 15 defense, and 39 res. Tatiana will have defense and res super boons. 37 attack, 34 speed is not bad for free-to-play blue mages. She does have lopsided defensive stats with really low defense, but 39 base res is real solid. If you're familiar with Ileana, Tatiana is very much the same. She does have slightly more speed but less defense and res. For old skills, Tatiana comes with Ardent Sacrifice if you did want to heal some allies. She then has Swift Stance 2 and Attack Opening 3. When Tatiana does demote, I believe Swift Stance will be her 4-star skill, and it's the first time it's on a 3 to 4-star summonable unit. Attack Opening is on some grow units, but this will be the first time it's on a summonable 3 to 4-star. Tatiana does introduce a new inheritable tome, the Blar Rabbit Plus. It's a 12 might tome, and during the unit's first combat in player or enemy phase, grants +5 attack and res, and restores 7 HP after combat. Unfortunately, this is not a new type of tome, it's actually just the blue version of last summer's Melon Flow Plus and the Conjure Bouquet Plus. These weapons only proc once per phase, so ideally you just want to fight one time and not take on the whole army. It's a decent weapon that Tatiana can take advantage since it boosts her best stats, and the healing is nice after combat. I wouldn't say it's a must use, but it's not bad. Personally, I would compare these tomes to the Valentine's tomes from this year. The blue one is the Pack Blooms Plus from Valentine's Veronica, and those weapons activate if you're near allies and inflicts -5 attack and res debuffs, which means you also boost your physical defense tanking, and it actually has healing on hit. Kinda similar, but personally I would prefer the Pack Blooms over this Rapid Tome, especially for a more generalist, bulkier build. In terms of playstyle and builds, Tatiana can sort of do similar things like Luthier, but just less starting speed. If you want a budget offensive mage to work with, then she can use things like the Fox Tome or Swiss Sparrow. If you just want to use the Rapid Tome, I would actually think it would be fine for a magical damage dueling setup. Tatiana could take Mystic Boost, which would stop Dragon adaptive damage from messing her up, and its healing would stack with the Rapid Tome. This could be fun with things like Push 4 skills or Ideal skills, but Tatiana can make do with things like Swiss Stance. If you just want some extra speed and more ally buffing support, you could use a Link B skill to benefit Tatiana, and she can buff her attack opening target. As I was mentioning, the Pack Blooms Plus is an actual attainable weapon and can be a good weapon to build around for a defensive build. The attack debuff can help with Tatiana's awful base defense, and since her res is already good to start with, you can continue de-stacking defense with things like Close Foil, Sturdy Stance, maybe a low skill. You're not going to be tanking Fallen Edelgard, but at least Tatiana won't drop in a single hit. Maybe. If you want some more build ideas, you can look at what people have been doing with Ileana, since they are quite similar stat-wise. Tatiana isn't exactly deviating much from what we already have, but she's got some good options to go for offensive or defensive moves. That's going to be it for this banner breakdown. Got a lot going on with a free unit and a mythic hero. If you don't plan to summon, then we have a grand hero battle coming up for Fernand. I hope you like free-to-play Cavaliers, because we got another one. Oh boy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.